Can a book-loving girl from Japan survive in a world with medieval-type conditions? Well, yeah, except there's no books! Hello everybody and welcome to this light novel review. I'm Justus Stone and my channel's all about light novels, reviews like this one, news, podcasts, all to grow the fandom and to help you find a new light novel series to love. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future light novel content. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing volume number 1 of Miya Kazuki's light novel series, Ascendance of a Bookworm. I'll do anything to become a librarian. This one has artwork by Shiina. It has a translation by Quof and is released officially in English by J-Novel Club. If you want to pick up your own copy, I've got links in the description down below. Ascendance of a Bookworm is about Urano, a Japanese woman who has spent her life absolutely enamored with books. I mean, we're talking this is the girl who gets locked in the library when they close at night because she is so wrapped up in what she's reading. She, A, doesn't realize the place is closing, and B, the staff don't even realize that she's still there. So involved with books, in fact, that she's managed to land her dream job, and that is to work as a librarian. As this new and exciting chapter of her life unfolds, she dies. And ironically enough, it's because she's crushed by a whole bunch of books in her own home library. Urano becomes suddenly aware of the fact that, well, she's not exactly dead. In fact, she's quite conscious and aware. However, she's now in the body of a very sickly young child who's about 5-6 years of age. And not only that, but she doesn't seem to be on Earth anymore. She, in fact, is the youngest daughter of a captain of the guards in a very poor medieval type city, but even more horrific than the bad hygiene, lack of cleaning products and body hygiene products is the fact that literacy is so low and the cost of producing books so high that books are almost entirely unobtainable. And so Urano decides that in order to live in this world, she's just going to have to figure out how to make books for herself. Now let me just say right now that I know I am very behind in this series. J-Novel Club has been releasing this one digitally for a while. It's considerably ahead of where I am even in their print releases. And of course there's already been a season of the anime based on this series. So I know a lot of you are probably far more familiar with things that happen in this series well beyond this book. So I may say a few things that this is kind of how the story is, which, I don't know, maybe it changes down the road. In Japan, if I recall, there are over 20 books in this series so far, and it's still ongoing. So there's lots of room that things could eventually change, but definitely I'm going to say that this first book makes a big impression on just how different it is from so many other isekai. First off, there's the main character of Urano herself, or as she comes to be known in this new world as Myne. Now, first off, she's a child, and I don't mean like she's a child for a couple of chapters and then she suddenly time skips to be 16. This one is actually kind of like Mushoku Tensei in that way that the character stays her present age for the vast majority of the book. This first volume, I would say, probably takes place over almost a year. Myne is actually a 5-year-old girl in this book, and not only just a 5-year-old girl, but a very sickly 5-year-old girl, so much so that her growth has been stunted to the point where she actually seems to be about 3 years old when most people see her. That's what they think she actually is. She is very, very susceptible to coming down with very severe fevers. In fact, it is after one such really terrible fever that Urano, her consciousness comes to the forefront in Myne. It's kind of an interesting take in this one where it isn't just that the character suddenly remembers her past life. It's almost like Urano has actually replaced Myne. In fact, there are conversations. The book itself is written in first person from Urano's point of view. She, on a couple of occasions, is kind of like, where did Myne go? Like, you know, like there is a very definite disconnect between these two people. She has access to Myne's memories, but it seems very clear that there is a distinct difference between whoever this person of Myne was up until the point where Urano comes to the front. So we have a main character who is in zero ways OP. In fact, pretty much the dead opposite of it. She is so physically fragile that she gets winded just going down the steps of her family's apartment to get down to street level. It takes a good chunk of the book before she can even walk to her father's workplace, which we're told is about a half an hour or so's walk from the house, can actually do it on her own without having to be carried for the bulk of the way. We also have a main character who is completely self-driven. She doesn't have any kind of goals. There's not some goddess or god that comes forward and tells her what she is supposed to do or why she has been brought to this world. Nor does she find herself in a life situation where suddenly she kind of is aware of how things might turn out because it's similar to an otome game or similar to a light novel she was reading or any such thing. Instead, she is just born into the day-to-day routines of the people who live in this village, in this city, and she herself is deciding what she wants to do with this new life that she finds herself living. And of course, the fact that it's a goal of just basically having books is very different from your average isekai anyway. There isn't a, I need to become powerful. There isn't a, I've discovered that I have some superpowers that I'm going to develop and change the world or any such thing. It is a girl just saying, I really love books and I want to be able to read and make books. That's it, right? It's a very different feeling goal than we have seen in pretty much all other isekai. However, that also means that the pace of this light novel is very different. I mean, we actually have whole chapters that are dedicated to this girl trying to make the proper consistency of mud so that she can create tablets. So like the very first sort of Egyptian stone tablets that she can write on. Well, I guess that isn't even Egyptian because the Egyptians are later when she's trying to figure out how to make papyrus writing paper. So yes, we have very focused chapters that are all based on the idea of different types of materials that human beings have used throughout our history in order to preserve the written word. And it also means that our main character comes across as maybe just a little bit selfish. She has no qualms about using the people around her or manipulating the people around her to try and get what she wants. So if you're looking for a real drop-down, drag-em-out type light novel with lots of action and blood and guts and sexy girl harems, this is not going to be the book for you. And even if it does have more sort of action and intrigue and such down the road, I doubt it will ever be on the level of, say, like an Ari Ferretta. But that also means that this book does some things that I absolutely loved and that you don't really see in a lot of other isekai-type light novels. And it really boils down to the fact that it is that pace and that it is this girl that is just trying to make small incremental changes in her day-to-day life to make things better for herself and ultimately for those around her. It also means that the world building is handled a lot differently. We don't have a god or goddess kind of giving us the laydown on how this world works right from the start. We're really only discovering how this world operates and what this world is like as it is experienced through Myne's eyes. In a lot of ways, it is that gradual reveal of what this world is like and finding sort of interesting little nooks and crannies of this world. And also kind of, you do get wrapped up in this idea of Myne's about how she's going to obtain this paper and learn to read and create books and teach other people to read. And you become really embroiled in sort of her day-to-day life because it is building it up in that pace, and because you are only learning about the world as she learns about it. And the fact that she is so sickly, she really hasn't been outside of the house up until the point where Urano becomes sort of self-aware. And so we really are learning about this world and everything about this world through her point of view. It's also one of the very few light novels that I've read that has that sort of sense of detachment, where Urano, even though she knows that this character is her mom and this character is her father and this character is her sister in this world, she still sees them as strangers. She still does not feel that immediate connection of love or appreciation. It is also really in this book about her developing a relationship with these pretty much complete strangers, and building an appreciation for who they are as people and sort of figuring out who they are and how they operate and what they think. And even though I said there is an element of sort of a kind of selfishness to Myne's character, there is still that element of being there for the people that she appreciates. In fact, there was one passage that stuck out really clearly to me in which she talks about the older sister, Tuli, who is Myne's older sister, and she says that in her memories of Myne's, she finds that Myne felt quite a bit of jealousy and resentment because Tuli is so healthy and strong and can do all the things that Myne can't. And so, on the other hand, Urano as Myne shows all sorts of affection and thanks to Tuli because she realizes that here's this girl who is killing herself to try and help me, who is taking on extra responsibilities because her younger sister is so sick. Like, it allows that, because Urano is somewhat detached, it allows her to see this from a more analytical point of view, and she recognizes that Tuli's behavior is worthy of praise in a way that apparently Myne did not. And so we do see Urano as Myne doing things to try and show appreciation to Tuli and to help encourage her and to help her do better and to try and be less of a burden. It's also one of the only light novels I can think of that honestly talked about hygiene and how people go to the bathroom in a medieval society, and just how absolutely horrified and disgusted Myne is by all of that. At the end, a lot of the things that Urano as Myne does that sort of makes very small changes in this community aren't because of some incredible superpower or magic or, God-given mission, what have you. It really is just because this girl is able to look at things in a slightly different way, or to apply the knowledge that is really common to pretty much anybody in Japan. Admittedly, she's a little craftier than some people, and I don't mean crafty like, I mean like crafty as in literally can do crafts. Apparently, that was a big thing her mom wanted to get her involved in because her mom worried about her being stuck so much in books all the time. But the book also goes away to demonstrate how having a ton of knowledge is great, but you really kind of have to have some knowledge about how to do things. You have to have some practical skills in addition to those book smarts, as we see as Myne succeeds and fails in a lot of things that, yes, she knows about and understands on a cognitive level, but she's never actually tried to do. All in all, Ascendance of a Bookworm Volume 1 really succeeds in my books in terms of having a engaging main character who I really enjoyed, who felt like much more of an honest-to-God human being. Selfish in a lot of ways, but also very capable of being giving and being compassionate and being understanding and thankful for the things that people do for her. It also succeeds in giving us a bunch of very real and fleshed out secondary characters who we see through Myne's eyes, and a lot of this book is about her relationship building with these people because they are strangers to her. She doesn't just automatically start with that knowledge of love and acceptance right from the get-go. And as I said, on top of that, some fantastic world building, and in particular I have to give some shout outs to how this book ends. Now, you have to understand, this one is titled Book 1 Volume 1. So essentially, book 1 is 3 books long. It's kind of how it boils down. So in some ways, when this was a web novel, I guess book 1 was massive. and they agreed, the publishers, not to cut it down to one book size, but in fact to release it as book 1, volumes 1, 2, 3. So this one, when you get to the end of it, there's some really good twists at the end of this book. And what's fantastic is that they don't seem like they're out of nowhere. They actually explain a few things that happened in the book earlier that you kind of just took for granted as being one way, but then when you realize what's really going on, it just is it's a fantastic reveal, and again, really shows how the world building has been a part of this book throughout the whole thing. Overall, I loved this volume. I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed Urano / Myne as a character. I loved her spunk, and I loved how determined she was, but at the same time I appreciated that she wasn't completely just this one-sided character of being selfish and self-centered. I really enjoyed a lot of the secondary characters and loved how this world just kind of gradually unfurled in front of us. In this video, I want to say a special thanks to Kyle Block, Drone205, FixLab.com, and Michaela Werner for their support on Patreon, as well as the support of all of my patrons that allows me to buy books for review here on the channel, as well as paying for additional hosting so that the Light Novel Podcast can be on as many platforms and reach as many people as possible. So for my next review, I'm going to be sticking with the whole isekai fantasy thing, but we're going to get a little wackier than just a girl living in society trying to find some books to read. Instead, we're going to have a main character who comes back as a sword. Yes, that is correct. I'm going to be reading volume number 1 of Reincarnated as a Sword. That'll be my next review. So hey, if you aren't subscribed, make sure you hit that button so that you don't miss out on this review. Thanks for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.